The worst betrayal isn't when she leaves you, it's when she's still in your bed. But her body already belongs to another man. Imagine kissing lips that just touched someone else. Holding a body that's warm from another embrace, while you're the last to know. Most men don't see it. They excuse it. They deny it. They call it stress or routine. But women rarely confess, yet they always reveal. Today, I'm going to expose the 5 unmistakable signs that she's just slept with someone else. These aren't guesses. These are the cracks in her body language, her habits, and her story that no guilty woman can ever fully hide. And I'll warn you, once you see these signs, you can't unsee them. You'll have to make a choice. Keep lying to yourself, or walk away with your self-respect intact. Subscribe now, because what you're about to hear could save you years of wasted time, energy, and dignity. Let's begin. There's a kind of silence that wounds deeper than any insult, sharper than any scream. It's not the silence of an empty room, or a quiet night, or even an argument where no one speaks. No, the silence I'm talking about is far more brutal. It's the silence of a woman's body when it no longer reaches for you. Every man who has been with a woman long enough knows the difference. You know when her kiss carries warmth, when her touch lingers, when her hand naturally finds its way back to yours. You know when she leans into you without you asking, when her laughter melts into your chest, when her body curls toward yours in the dark, as if the space between you doesn't exist. And you also know, whether you admit it or not, when that current dies. One night, you lean in for a kiss, and her lips turn slightly, not enough to push you away outright, but enough to miss the full connection. Another night, you reach for her shoulder in bed, and instead of softening, her body stiffens. She'll say, she's tired. She'll say she's stressed. But you know the truth. Tiredness passes with sleep. Stress melts with time. Indifference, however, lingers. Indifference is not fatigue, it's a verdict. It's her body telling you, I've already been fed somewhere else. Most men can't bear to face this. They bury themselves in excuses. It's just the years. Relationships always cool off. This is normal, but it isn't. Attraction doesn't wither with age. Attraction doesn't vanish just because you've been together for years. Attraction dies when it finds a new source. Think about it. If she once pulled you close after work, but now she rolls away, that's not routine, it's revelation. If her body used to speak with hunger, but now it lies in silence, that's not stress, it's a signal. Here's the brutal question you need to ask yourself if her body no longer reaches for you. Why are you still reaching for her? The ancient Stoics warned us about this exact trap. Seneca wrote, "It is better to conquer our grief than to deceive it." What he meant is, clear denial is the cruelest enemy. Pretending everything is fine doesn't save your relationship. It only prolongs your humiliation. And that's what most men do. They ignore the silence of her body because acknowledging it would force them to make a choice they fear making. But courage begins with seeing things as they are, not as we wish them to be. Here's the truth. Most men don't want to admit when a woman has been fulfilled by someone else. She doesn't return to you hungry. She returns to you satisfied. and satisfaction leaves no space for desire. Imagine striking match after match against wood that's already burned to ash. No flame will catch, no matter how hard you try. That's what it feels like when her passion has already been spent elsewhere. And here's where men destroy themselves. Instead of recognizing the signs, they double down. They push harder. They increase their affection. Give more gifts. Try new tricks in bed, desperately hoping to reignite the fire. But effort cannot create attraction, and in reality, the more you try, the colder she becomes. Why? Because she sees you begging, and begging never builds respect. The harder you chase her silence, the louder that silence becomes. This is why you must learn to observe instead of chase, to step back and test the truth. When you stop reaching for her, watch what happens. If the distance closes naturally, if she seeks you out again, then maybe stress or fatigue truly was the thief. But if her silence only grows louder, if she never reaches back, then the truth is undeniable. She's gone, even if her body is still next to yours. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "If it is not true, do not say it. If it is not right, do not do it." Apply that here if her touch no longer carries truth. Stop pretending it does. If her presence no longer feels right, stop clinging to it. A man's strength is not measured by how long he can hold on to someone who's slipping away. It's measured by his ability to recognize when she's already gone and still hold on to himself. This is the fork in the road most men refuse to see. Do you stay because of genuine love, or do you stay because you fear being alone? Because if it's fear holding you there, then you're not in love. You're in captivity. Think of Leonidas, the Spartan king who faced the Persian army with only 300 men. Do you think he confessed fear to his warriors the night before battle? Do you think he said, "I don't think we can win"? Of course not. He carried his fear silently and showed only courage. Why? Because one crack in his armor would have shattered his men's resolve. In the same way, when you ignore the silence of her body, you're showing cracks not only to her but to yourself. You're teaching yourself that you'd rather live in denial than face the truth. And here's the cost. The longer you excuse the silence, the deeper you betray yourself. The real betrayal isn't her, it's you, choosing blindness over clarity. So, what should you do? Not rage, not beg, not accuse. Simply observe. Match her silence with your own calm detachment. Pull back. Reclaim your energy. Because once you stop chasing, you finally give yourself space to see, and that clarity is liberation. Yes, it burns to admit that she no longer desires you, but that pain is temporary. What lasts forever is the humiliation of lying to yourself while holding a body that is no longer truly yours. Here's the bottom line. A woman's body is an honest witness. Her lips may excuse. Her mind may invent stories. But her body cannot fake desire for long. If it has gone silent, pay attention. Not because you need to punish her, but because you need to protect yourself. The cold silence of her body is the first signal, the whisper before the scream, the crack before the collapse. And if you ignore it, the other signs will only grow louder. And if her body has gone silent, I don't think the truth will stay hidden, Because when desire disappears from her touch, it will start screaming through her habits. That's the next sign you need to see. When a woman crosses a line, she knows she shouldn't. She doesn't always confess. Words can be controlled. Stories can be rehearsed. But the body has instincts. And one of the clearest signs that she's just given herself to another man is what I call the cleansing ritual. Picture this. She walks back through the door after being away. And something is different. She doesn't smell like her natural rhythm of the day. She doesn't look like she just came from errands or work. She looks fresh. Too fresh. A shower that lasted longer than usual. Hair damp when there was no reason for it. A change of clothes that doesn't match the time of day. Perfume stronger than it normally is. Sometimes even a new scent altogether. On the surface, it looks like self-care, but if you've been paying attention, you know it's something else, a cover-up. Here's the psychology behind it. Woman-Unterstand. Sometimes better than men. That the body tells stories, skin holds on to touch, hair carries scents, clothes remember contact. And when she doesn't want you to read those stories, she scrubs them out. She showers longer. She layers herself in fragrances. She hides laundry. She changes underwear, even when the rest of the outfit doesn't fit. These aren't random habits. These are erasures. And here's the irony. Her effort to erase actually makes the signs louder. Because when she suddenly becomes obsessed with hygiene in ways that break her normal rhythm, it's not self-care. It's guilt management. She's not just cleaning her body. She's trying to wash her conscience. But most men don't see it. Or worse, they don't want to see it. They convince themselves it's innocent. She just likes to feel fresh. Or she's trying out a new perfume. Or maybe she's focusing more on herself lately. That's how men gaslight themselves. Because facing the darker possibility that she's washing away traces of another man requires a level of courage most men are afraid to summon. Let me be crystal clear. Does every shower mean betrayal? No. Of course not. But the key isn't in the act itself. It's in the change. It's in the shift of behavior. If she never cared much about rushing to the bathroom before, but now she does. If she was never secretive about laundry, but now guards it like it's classified. If she suddenly wears a scent she never wore for you, but conveniently right after unexplained absences, you'd be blind not to notice. The Stoics understood this well. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, "Observe always how ephemeral and worthless human things are." In other words, don't get distracted by appearances. Don't take things at face value. Look deeper. A shower can be just a shower. But when it appears out of rhythm, it's not just soap, it's a signal. Let's take this deeper. Why does she do it? Why the ritual? Because guilt is heavy. And guilt looks for relief. By washing her body, she convinces herself she's also washing away the act. She convinces herself that if she smells different, if she looks fresh, if she hides the evidence, then maybe, just maybe, you won't sense what happened. It's not just about you. It's about her desperate attempt to reset her own conscience. But here's the catch. No matter how much she scrubs, guilt leaks. It leaks through timing. It leaks through patterns. It leaks through the tension in her eyes when you notice the change. And most of all, It leaks because overcompensation always exposes itself. History gives us the same lesson. When generals lost battles in ancient Rome, they rarely admitted defeat outright. They masked it with elaborate stories, justifications, or rituals of honor. But the more they tried to cover their loss, the more obvious the truth became. The same principle applies here. The more she tries to erase, the more the truth bleeds through the ritual. So what's your role as a man? Not to confront her with rage, not to accuse her with paranoia. That only gives her more control over the narrative. Your role is to see clearly, to connect the dots without lying to yourself. Because once you truly see, you can never unsee. And that's your power. The mistake most men make here is reacting too quickly. They smell the new perfume, and they explode. They notice the long shower, and they start interrogating. But confrontation without clarity makes you look insecure, not strong. The solution is not anger, it's awareness. Awareness gives you leverage. Awareness gives you options. Awareness is what separates a man who keeps his dignity from a man who loses it in emotional chaos. Here's the practical step-track patterns, not moments. One shower doesn't mean anything, but if it becomes a routine after late arrivals, if the perfume always comes after unexplained absences, if the freshness consistently arrives right when the excuse is due, then you know what's happening. Don't excuse it. Don't sugarcoat it. Just register it. And when you register it, hold your silence. Not because you're weak, but because silence is power. Seneca said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Don't let your imagination run wild and turn you into a paranoid detective. Instead, let your awareness anchor you in reality. Observe. Note the pattern. Let the truth become undeniable in your own eyes before you act. Because once you act, there's no going back. Now let me hit you with a mind-blowing question. If she truly loved you, if she truly respected you, would she need to erase herself before coming home to you? Would she need to hide her skin, her scent, her laundry, her story? You already know the answer, and the fact that you even have to ask the question tells you more than her words ever will. Here's the bottom line. The cleansing ritual isn't about hygiene. It's about guilt. And guilt doesn't lie quietly. It leaks through patterns, through changes, through details that don't fit. If you ignore it, you're not being strong. You're being scared. And the man who is scared of the truth will always be enslaved by it. So watch carefully when she rushes to the shower, when she smells too perfect, when she hides her laundry, like it's evidence in a trial. Pay attention, because hygiene can clean the body, but it can't erase the truth. And if her body is clean, but her conscience is dirty, it won't stay hidden. Because guilt doesn't just wash off, it spills out sideways. And the next sign you'll see isn't about silence or showers. It's about blame. That's the battlefield where betrayal reveals itself. There's a cruel shift that happens when guilt becomes too heavy for her to carry. She doesn't confess it. She doesn't sit you down and pour out the truth. Instead, she flips the script. She transfers the weight from her shoulders onto yours. Suddenly, you're not the man she betrayed. You're the man who's causing problems. You felt it before. You walk through the door expecting peace, and instead of a warm hello, you're greeted with a complaint. Maybe you loaded the dishwasher wrong. Maybe you didn't text fast enough. Maybe you were too quiet, or too talkative, or too distracted. Whatever it is, you've suddenly become the villain in a play you didn't audition for. This isn't random. It's not bad luck. It's strategy, psychological projection at its sharpest, because if she paints you as the problem, she doesn't have to face her betrayal. If you're inattentive, if you're cold, if you're boring, then, in her mind, she didn't stray because she chose to. She strayed because you drove her there. That's the script she writes to survive her own conscience. And the tragedy, most men fall right into the trap. Instead of standing tall, they defend themselves. They explain, they argue, they try to prove that they're not inattentive, not boring, not the monster she's making them out to be. But the harder you defend yourself, the deeper you sink into her narrative. Logic won't fix this. Why? Because you're not fighting truth, you're fighting her guilt. And guilt doesn't bow to logic. Imagine this. You're in a courtroom, accused of a crime you didn't commit. The prosecutor has no evidence, but you keep arguing anyway. Every word you say, every defense you make, becomes material for the case against you. That's what happens when you play her blame game. The more you try to prove yourself innocent, the more you look guilty in her rewritten story. The Stoics warned us about this exact trap. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." When she projects her guilt onto you, the battle isn't in her accusations, it's in your reaction. If you explode, you look unstable. If you beg, you look weak. If you defend endlessly, you look guilty. But if you stay calm, if you hold your ground without playing her script, you reclaim the frame. So, how do you do it? You don't rise to the bait. You don't dance to the tune she's playing. When she lashes out over something ridiculous, look her in the eye and say calmly, "You don't need to fight to justify what you've already decided." Then step back, not in weakness, but in strength. That one move collapses her narrative, because when you don't play the villain role she assigned you, her script falls apart. The weight of her guilt shifts back where it belongs, onto her. Men often ask me, "But isn't staying quiet weak? Isn't it letting her win?" No. Silence isn't weakness when it's chosen. Silence is power when it's paired with clarity. Weakness is letting yourself be dragged into chaos. Strength is control. Strength is refusing to swing wildly at shadows just because someone else is throwing punches in the dark. Let me give you a historical example. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, was constantly blamed for things outside his control: plagues, wars, famines. The people projected their fear and anger onto him. He could have lashed out, defended himself, or blamed others in return, but instead, he wrote in his meditations, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." In other words, don't let their chaos dictate your response. Stay centered. Stay unshaken. That's exactly what you must do here, because if you fight her projections with arguments, you're dragged into the mud. But if you stand calmly, refusing to be the villain in her guilty story. You expose the truth without saying a word. Here's the deeper psychology. Her irritation isn't really about you. It's her conscience screaming at her from the inside. Every snap, every complaint, every unjustified jab, it's her way of trying to silence the voice in her head that knows she crossed a line. By making you the problem, she temporarily relieves herself of that guilt, but only temporarily. And when you refuse to play along, that voice gets louder for her. So, what's the move? The move is discipline. The move is clarity. The move is refusing to be manipulated by guilt that isn't yours. Next time she snaps at you over something absurd, don't match her energy. Don't defend. Don't argue. Simply acknowledge her tactic with calm strength. Then step back, because the goal isn't to win the argument, it's to protect your dignity. And dignity is non-negotiable. Here's a practical test for you. The next time you feel yourself being baited, pause before you speak. Ask yourself, am I about to respond to her words or to her guilt? If the answer is guilt, stop. Hold your frame. Remember, you don't owe her an explanation for crimes you didn't commit. Let me remind you of this truth. The man who keeps defending himself against false accusations will eventually start to believe he's guilty. The man who calmly refuses to play the game remains untouchable. Now, understand, this projection is powerful, but it's not the final mask. She can twist words. She can rewrite stories. She can shift blame. But there's one battlefield she can't control: her body, because words can lie. But physiology doesn't, and that's where the next sign reveals itself. You can ignore her words. You can dodge her blame. But there's one place she can't hide: her body. And no matter how polished her excuses are, the truth will spill out through her skin, her rhythms, and her presence. And that's the next sign you must see. There's a difference between a body beside you and a soul with you. And once you've felt that difference, it cuts deeper than any blade. Many men think betrayal begins when she walks out the door, but the truth is, betrayal often starts in your own bed. She may still be lying next to you, touching you, even saying the right words, but her spirit is miles away. That is the most brutal absence of all emotional absence in intimacy. At first, it's subtle. You're together physically, but something feels off. Her eyes don't hold yours. Her energy doesn't sync with your rhythm. She's going through the motions, but her presence is hollow. This isn't stress. This isn't exhaustion. Stress still allows connection. Tiredness still allows presence. What you're feeling is a void. And deep down, you know the truth. She's replaying memories that don't involve you. The theater of intimacy. A woman can fake enthusiasm. She can moan. She can smile. She can even reach for you. But what she cannot fake is her soul aligning with yours when her heart is somewhere else. Intimacy becomes theater. You become a supporting actor in a play written to cover her guilt. This is where most men deceive themselves. They say, she's just tired, or it's just a phase. All couples go through this. But phases don't hollow out the eyes. Phases don't make her spirit vanish while her body stays. That's not a phase. That's absence. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If anyone can prove me wrong, I will gladly change, for I seek the truth," which never harmed anyone. The harm is in persisting in self-deception. The man who ignores emotional absence is not loyal, he is lying to himself. Why emotional absence hurts more than physical absence? A woman who leaves you physically gives you clarity. You can see the empty side of the bed, the unanswered calls, the locked doors. But a woman who leaves emotionally while still staying physically, that confusion will torture you because you keep asking yourself, am I imagining this? Is it me? Am I not enough? That self-doubt is poison. And it's exactly why this sign is so dangerous. Emotional absence corrodes you from the inside out. It makes you beg harder, give more, overcompensate, thinking you can win her back with extra effort. But effort doesn't fix betrayal. It only drains you while she invests her real passion somewhere else. The trap of overcompensation. This is where most men collapse. They feel her slipping away, so they push harder. More affection, more patience, more gifts, more time. They think, if I give her everything, she'll remember what we had. But here's the harsh truth when she's emotionally absent. Your extra effort doesn't bring her back, it pushes her further away. Because now she doesn't just feel detached. She feels burdened. She doesn't see your love as strength. She sees it as desperation. And desperation kills desire faster than betrayal itself. Seneca warned, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." When you sense her absence, you let your imagination run wild, trying to justify it. You tell yourself stories, excuses, reasons why it's not what you think. But those stories only prolong the pain. Reality is clear, the moment you have the courage to see it. Signs of emotional absence. So how do you know when it's truly happening? You don't need to interrogate. You don't need to play detective. Just pay attention. Her eyes no longer meet yours during intimacy. Her touch feels routine, not electric. She participates physically but withdraws emotionally, like she's following a script. Her energy feels detached, as if she's somewhere else in her mind. It's not about one night. It's about the pattern, the consistency. A woman who is emotionally invested may be tired sometimes. Yes, but when her soul leaves repeatedly, when the connection vanishes night after night, that's no accident. The Stoic response. So, what's the move? Do you beg? Do you confront? Do you cry and plead for her to come back to you? No. The Stoics teach us that the only thing we control is ourselves. Epictetus wrote, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Your job is not to drag her soul back into your arms. Your job is to master yourself, to stop confusing physical presence with real connection, to stop humiliating yourself by pretending a hollow embrace is love. When you notice the absence, don't smother it with more effort. Don't bribe her soul with gifts or words. Instead, step back, breathe, observe, accept what is, instead of clinging to what was. The power of silent recognition. Here's a powerful exercise. Next time you sense the absence, pause, look at her, and instead of asking what's wrong or don't you love me anymore, say nothing. Let the silence sit. In that silence, acknowledge the truth to yourself. I am not here to beg for connection. I am here to face reality. That one mental shift changes everything. Because when you stop begging, you stop bleeding. You reclaim your self-respect. You stop being a man waiting for scraps of affection and start being a man who recognizes when the banquet is already over. The choice every man must make. At the end of the day, emotional absence forces a choice. You can either lie to yourself and pretend it's not happening, or you can accept it and act with dignity. One path leads to years of slow humiliation. The other hurts once but heals forever. Remember this, a woman's body may lie for a night, but her soul cannot lie for long. If her spirit is no longer with you, then the relationship is already gone. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. And a good man is not the one who clings to someone who's already absent. A good man is the one who has the courage to see clearly, act decisively, and protect his dignity at all costs. Words are fragile things. They can be rehearsed, polished, and repeated. But when a woman has crossed a line, when she's living two lives, her story eventually begins to crack. And once the cracks appear, the collapse is inevitable. This is the nail in the coffin, the moment where her own words betray her. At first, the stories sound normal. She was working late. Her friend needed her. Her phone deed. Innocent. Believable. Even casual. But over time, the pattern starts to wobble. Details change. Timelines don't add up. Her tone doesn't match her words. You notice her eyes darting away when she explains. You notice her voice speeding up or slowing down unnaturally. You notice that her excuses feel thinner than paper. That's not stress. That's deception, struggling to stay upright. The weight of contradiction. Every lie carries a burden. The truth is light. It doesn't require memory. It doesn't need rehearsing. But à lire requiert effort. She has to remember what she said last time. She has to fill in gaps. She has to make it sound convincing. And when pressure mounts, the weight of those contradictions collapses. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Les dye à per son soul." They tint everything: her voice, her body language, her choices. No matter how carefully she paints over it, the color bleeds through. So when you catch her telling one story today and another version tomorrow, don't brush it off. Don't tell yourself, "I probably misremembered." You didn't misremember. You witnessed the collapse of her story. The mistake men make. Here's where most men destroy themselves. They demand evidence. They want proof. They want a screenshot. A confession. A witness. They think if they just dig deep enough, they'll find the smoking gun that finally justifies their instincts. But the truth doesn't always come with a receipt. It doesn't need to. The collapse of her story is already the evidence. If you wait for undeniable proof, you'll wait forever while your self-respect rots in the meantime. Epictetus warned, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react that matters." The collapse of her story is not your invitation to become a detective. It's your moment to act like a man, to decide whether you'll cling to her contradictions or cling to your dignity. The power of silence. So what's the move when her story falls apart in front of you? Do you rage? Do you accuse? Do you demand she tell you the truth? No. That only gives her more ground to twist the narrative. The strongest move is silence. Let the lie collapse under its own weight. Don't rescue her. Don't try to force clarity. Simply state the truth calmly. I don't believe you, and I don't need to. Then let the silence hang. That one sentence is devastating, because it shifts all the power back to you. You are no longer the man begging for an explanation. You are the man who no longer requires one. Why? Silence wins. Silence terrifies liars. Arguments give them oxygen room to spin, room to manipulate. Silence suffocates the deception. It forces her to sit in the rubble of her own contradictions without you cleaning it up. Think of Napoleon, known for his fiery temper. Yes, but also for his use of silence. When confronted, he often paused, letting the other side trip over their own words, revealing more than they intended. In the same way, your silence makes her reveal the truth, without you lifting a finger, the decision that defines you. Here's the brutal truth when her story collapses. The real issue is no longer what she did. The issue is what you do. Will you betray yourself by pretending the cracks aren't real, or will you protect your dignity by walking away from someone who no longer respects you? Seneca wrote, "A man who suffers before it is necessary suffers more than is necessary." If you cling to a collapsing story, you choose to suffer twice: first from her betrayal, and second from your denial. The wiser path is to suffer once, face the truth, make the decision, and walk away. Practical step: quiet recognition. Here's a tool you can use immediately. The next time her excuse doesn't add up, don't argue. Don't demand details. Just pause, look her in the eye, and let the silence stretch. Inside, tell yourself, I already know enough. I don't need more. That quiet recognition is your shield. It stops you from pouring your soul into endless battles for clarity that will never come. It anchors you in your frame, reminding you that your worth is not tied to her explanations. In the end, betrayal is not defined by her lies, it's defined by your choices. You don't need to scream cheater. You don't need to put her on trial. All you need is clarity, and the courage to act on it. The collapse of her story is the nail in the coffin, not because it proves she betrayed you, but because it proves you must stop betraying yourself. So ask yourself this when her story no longer makes sense. Will you keep pretending it does, or will you finally honor the truth? Your gut already knew betrayal hurts. Yes, but the real betrayal isn't what she did, it's what you allow yourself to ignore. The moment you choose to deny your instincts, to excuse the cracks, to cling to someone who's already gone, you betray yourself, and that pain lasts longer than any infidelity. So here's the truth. A woman's lies may wound you, but your silence will destroy you. The most masculine decision you can make is to stop begging for clarity, stop chasing ghosts, and start honoring your own worth. Self-respect is always greater than betrayal. Now I want you to take this personally. Ask yourself right now, what signs have I ignored? Where have I lied to myself? And then share your answer in the comments, because your story might be the one that wakes another man before it's too late. And if you're ready to stop betraying yourself, subscribe to this channel right now, hit that like button, and share this video with a brother who needs to hear it. Because every man deserves the truth. And every man deserves the strength to walk away with dignity. Until next time, hold your frame, hold your power, and never trade your respect for her attention.